Welcome everyone to this final session for our virtual conference for this year. I'm really excited to be able to share information about a special program that we've been having going on this last year, and it's just really exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing about it. So, the project is called the Resiliency Think Tank. It is funded by the Center for Resiliency through a grant. And I'm the leader for the project. We have, I think, 6 students right now who are think tankers and participate. So Nicolette and Cameron are here on the call right now with us. So I am going to pick on them a whole lot because it's one of my favorite things to do. And so there they are. So I'm going to ask, let's see, Cameron, would you please explain what the Resiliency Think Tank is?
Yes. So the Resiliency Think Tank is a student-led organization, and we are all from different disciplines. So we are all from different parts of the college, and we're doing research in homelessness. So what we're trying to do is kind of do our research through the lens of those respective majors. So like Dr. White said, we have about 6 of us. We have Nicolette and I are family studies, and then we also have Jessica, who's a family studies major, and then we have Joe, who's communications. We have Clancy, who's nutrition, Amy, who's education, and then James, who is in business. And so, yeah, we've all been doing different service projects throughout the semester. We've done a lot of strategic planning. We do business meetings. We meet every Monday and Wednesday. And what we do is we'll sit down and we'll be like, okay, what's this project? Where are we going with this project? Who can volunteer? What's just those type of plans. But yeah, we're just a bunch of good people in a good group.
Y'all are good people in a good group. Nicolette, what would you add to the question, what is the think tank?
Really, it's empowerment of individuals in every aspect. I haven't seen, any restrictions on who we're working with. It's really about doing a needs assessment and just jumping in and seeing how we can use our resources and tools to improve their circumstance or situation at any given project.
How can you make an impact locally?
So I know that both of y'all recently did poster presentations at the Housing Summit in McKinney, Texas. Could you each talk about what your projects were for that? And then also, how did your experience in the Family Studies program impact or influence that inquiry?
Nicolette, you can go first.
No, okay. So the poster presentation I did was Unseen Wounds, and it was about grief and trauma with women that are in marginalized spaces, and from food insecurities to having to put on a face of resiliency, even though they're carrying the burden of themselves, their survival, and the survival of their children, over to mental health and the traumas that they experience through victimizations and any abuse that they've experienced just on top of their situation alone. It's very hard. And how to be in a place of culture, humility, and advocacy for those individuals, and to be a foundation to offer resources and how to help them manage and kind of cope and find healing with that and what that can look like, and the need that the community needs to improve on and offering those services to people. Mental health is not a luxury. It should be cared for just as much as our physical health and nutrition. It's what makes us function. So that is a snapshot of my project, and being able to present that at the Samaritan Inn, a transitional housing facility, with those that are working closely with people in such transition spaces was very rewarding, honorable, and intimidating. There's my poster. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. White. You're on mute.
Of course, I'm on mute. So it was printed 24 by 36 inches. The Center for Resiliency printed them all for us, and it was beautiful. When we were at McKinney for the housing summit, they hung them in the hallway, and then all of the think tankers stood by their posters and answered questions as the staff and volunteers came through to learn about their different projects and research. So this is Nicolette's poster. I'll add it to the landing page. So if anyone wants to read it more in depth, y'all can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Cameron to answer, and I'll switch over so everyone can see what hers look like.
My poster in research was over kind of the gendered experience in homelessness, specifically women, and I framed it as kind of what kind of barriers do women go through as when they are on the streets, and then versus like if you're a caseworker or if you're working on the other side, what are those barriers and what do they have in common? Like how can they make it a full circle moment? Um, so like the impact of services and outcomes. I don't know why I could not remember what my title was. But yeah, kind of an overview is understanding those gender dynamics and how crucial it can be to improving those outcomes for homeless women. A lot of what I talked about was, you know, the being like the experience of being a woman and how different it is when you're on the other side. If you're on the street, a lot of time, you know, your femininity has been stripped from you. You know, you might feel judged by other women because you're not able to meet the needs as like a mother or just a woman in general because you're not, I mean, you're in a vulnerable situation. And I learned something called empowerment versus paternalism, which I wasn't familiar with before, which is kind of, you know, we uplift women and we want them to be in charge of their own autonomy whenever, even if they're receiving services and help, you want them to be able to be in charge of themselves because, you know, they still deserve a little bit of control, even if things are completely out of control. Versus like paternalism is like you are kind of making the decisions for them, babying them and making and kind of enabling them a little bit instead of, you know, keeping them uplifted, like you can do this, you can pull yourself out of this. And then safety and trauma informed care was just talking about how, you know, women are more likely to kind of be better at that. I know that sounds kind of bad, but it's more relatable, I think. And then, you know, being a role model, like if you're a female caseworker or if you're just a female working in that space in general, you can be a role model. And I think one of the common factors, like I said, is just the experience. Womanhood as a whole is an experience. We're all experiencing something. We all can relate to being a woman and what that means to us. And what we all go through may be different, but we can still relate back to that. Um, and so I got to present this and it was really awesome. I enjoyed it. I actually got the idea from a different article that Dr. White had given me. I saw like a small portion of research where they kind of did the same thing. And so I started doing my own research because women's studies in general, women are very, very under researched. So I wanted to put my twist on that. And through the family studies route, I think that I use a lot of what I've learned to do that research, and I knew what I was looking for and I was able to apply it, so that was easier for me to come up with that poster and that idea.
Thank you. So could y'all talk a little bit about the let's start with Nicolette, the quantity of projects that y'all did, and then maybe talk about some of the specifics, the examples of projects that y'all did throughout the semester. And while you're doing that, I'm going to hunt up the flyer that you created and show it so everyone can see because it's pretty cool.
When I originally created the flyer, in my recollection, I believe I counted 22 projects from January, maybe a few right before January, but since January through end of April is what the think tank has been involved in. Incredible. Like there is no task that they shied away from. If the project got put on the table in one of our meetings, it was like, when are we doing it? What's the deadline? It was amazing to just see people understand a need and do their best to address it. So you'll see the community projects list on the left under the community project section of this brochure that Dr. White's sharing. And Cameron can elaborate more on the other part that Dr. White asked about.
I'll elaborate on the projects.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, my puppy is going crazy over here. So we have done a lot of projects, like Nicolette said, whatever was kind of just like out and put on the table, we were all eager to jump in and be like, okay, what can we do? And we were lucky that we were able to do that, especially Dr. White is so good at guiding us to being successful with those projects, and we were really wanting to contribute to the community. How could we do more community engagement as students? So at the beginning of the semester, we did point in time count, which is, if you, obviously most of you guys have Dr. White, that's her baby. She's always asking for volunteers and help. And so that's a yearly consensus of the homeless population in different regions. And you go out and you interview the homeless community, and you also, we got donations and stuff that we were able to give them, and we were able to feed them and kind of get to know a different lived experience. This was my first time working with the homeless community. I really, really enjoyed it. It was eye-opening, it was humbling. And I know it was a little different than it normally is because it snowed the day before. We had like snowpocalypse, and so it was a mess, but we of course pivoted and were able to make do with what we had and try to get out there and do the best that we could. But that was just one of the things we did. Of course, we did the housing summit. We did things like we volunteered at this place called Sleep in Heavenly Peace, where we built beds. We worked night strike, which night strike happens once a month. It's a Friday night, and a lot of like ministries and different people out in the community go out and they do like a clothing drive. They do worship. They feed, that homeless community out there. I also did a project with the American Red Cross, the Pillowcase Project, where I went into elementary schools and talked about displacement and what would happen, in the case of a home fire, if, destruction happened during a hurricane, and we taught them how to make their own emergency kit. Oh gosh, we did so much. I'm trying to think of like the really good ones. And of course, the housing summit was like my favorite when we went to Samaritan Inn. That was a really cool bonding experience as a team. We've worked with veterans, we've worked with the youth, and we really just, whatever we kind of see fits, that's what we're doing. And we work really well together to plan and, get everything out there. So it's been awesome. And there's like a whole list of all the things that we accomplished. And just, this semester, 22 projects on top of, your schoolwork and whatever else whatever else you may be doing is pretty impressive. So we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish so far. Anything you would like to add, Nicolette, in case I forgot it?
No, I think you highlighted all those very well.
Let's see. Somewhere, was that you, Nicolette, just asked about the brochure?
Yep.
Yes. When I add the images of the posters to the landing page, I'll add the brochure, the PDF version, so everyone can have a chance to read more of the details, because it's pretty amazing what y'all have done. So could y'all talk about the intersection between the work that y'all have been doing and resiliency? Obviously, the money comes from the Center for Resiliency, and that's really what the project or the program was established to do. So maybe talk about that.
We always do that. We're like, because I know there's always a lag. There's always a lag.
I usually try to be respectful, let somebody else go
No,
first.
you can go first. I'll piggyback off you. You can go.
Okay, so the connection to building resiliency is how I
Correct.
understand that. Okay.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, this world is functioned on a dollar. So grants do help, and really it was a blessing about the federal grant pause that happened in January with the administrative executive orders that stopped all federal grant funding for essentially audits by the Doge team, and that impacted the United States worldwide. Worldwide, wow, because the United States is worldwide. Okay, edit that out.
Well,
Nationwide. I mean, it is. We impact the globe, but it didn't affect the grant funding for the resiliency think tank from the Center of Resiliency. So that funding is being used to work on needs assessment projects, and that is involving preparing right now, doing a needs assessment for grassroots organizations that are in the Southeast Texas area, and asking them about their organizations, about their community connections, about their funding opportunities and availabilities, and how to help them find grants, write grants, and get qualified for those grants, because you could find it and write it and still have to be qualified for it. And just helping them to build professional development. And so that's a project that's in the works that's going to require additional, funding, and it's an opportunity to be very impactful on a resilient level for both organizations, and then also for them to be able to be impactful with the communities they serve, and being resilient and offering the resources through their own organizations and services. Your turn, Cameron.
I think for me personally, I had never, I mean, besides like my own experience with things like financial aid, I had not previously dealt with grants and different things like that. So the connection with the resiliency team for me, I think was, no, well, for one, thank you so much to the Center for Resiliency at Lamar, who like took a chance on our team and helped us build and create something that I hope gets to stay and gets to follow for, more semesters and more students. I'm so grateful. They have been, you know, super interested in our work and checking in on us and having us even present at like the brown bags and everything. If you're not familiar with brown bags at Lamar, they are kind of like seminars, webinars where you are presenting research. And I've done a couple with Dr. White because I have been working with her since before Think Tank. But also like we had a budget. I had never been a part of something that had like a budget, and us being able to use that money and use it for all these super cool things. I mean, we're obviously getting paid, but also we were able to buy all these things for our projects, and we're able to give, like when we do our needs assessment, we're able to give back to these people who we're talking to because of them. And they've just been very, very awesome to us. And I think I have a better understanding of how like grants work. And one of which had never really popped up for me before. Whenever we went to visit the Samaritan Inn, we actually got like a small little presentation about writing grants and what that looks like. And it made me appreciate it more because, and I do want to learn more about it because I have a feeling it'll pop up in my field of work. I definitely feel like it will pop up quite often. Um, but yeah, I'm just very thankful for the Center for Resiliency. They have been so great, and I think that they really genuinely like our work. And they were collaborating with them. We were able to create a awesome space for us to be involved in our community. So yeah.
Yeah, the grant that we received is called the Lamar Project Grant. It's an interdisciplinary project, which means, of course, working with multiple disciplines. And we received about $50,000, which we're really thankful for, and that pays for staff time so that our students who are think tankers will be able to be compensated because we know that's important, and also provided lots of supplies for us to do really neat things. I think probably my favorite supply is Hedwig. Cameron, you want to talk about Hedwig?
Yes. So Hedwig is a very fancy camera. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the owl. The owl is kind of like, it's a webcam, and you hook it up to your laptop, computer, all the things, and it shows all angles of the room. So whenever we didn't have it for like months, but whenever we do our business meetings, our think tank meetings, we have the option to be in person or online. And of course, for Nicolette, since I am from Beaumont, so I live near campus, so I typically work on campus, and a lot of the students that are also a part of Think Tank also are on campus, and then we have our friend Nicolette, who is very, very far away. So in order for her to be able to participate, we have our team meeting as well. But now that we have Hedwig, our little owl, she can see all of us in the room. Normally she would only be able to see like a corner of the room because we were using a laptop, but she can see all of us. And even whenever, say, if I'm not feeling well, and so I decide not to, and I'm on Teams, and I can still see everybody. But yeah, it very, very cool little trinket that we got, and we named him Hedwig because of Harry Potter, because it's called the owl.
And what does Hedwig do?
He hoots at you, and he's also very difficult to set up. So
It's pretty fun. So speaking of working from a distance, Nicolette, could you talk a little bit about your role in the pit count from a distance?
Yes. I am grateful I got to participate in my tiny little office here in Waller, Texas, which is about 2 hours from Beaumont. Um, it was hard, one, because I couldn't drive to Beaumont because of the Arctic weather that they were experiencing and we were experiencing. It wasn't safe. But to be able to connect with those working and volunteering with Pit Count, and to hear about where there is a need for more volunteer efforts, I was able to work with some of my long lasted networking friends from when I was 18. I met this friend of mine who lived in Port Arthur area, and I was able to connect with him and in a local religious organization to be able to get additional volunteers to help with pit count, and to kind of help Dr. White correlate with people texting or calling to make sure that people knew where to go and what they needed to do, how to get supplies in the area that they needed, that they were handing out to those experiencing homelessness. And I'm just really grateful for technology. I'm grateful for Hedwig. I'm grateful for Teams. I'm grateful for cell phones. Like it's amazing what you can get done, even not being there in person, and still feel a little bit impactful of like that very important day.
I agree. I think for me, it was eye-opening also because we haven't had a virtual volunteer helping with the pit count coordination. And on that day, with snowpocalypse going on, it was not only freezing cold, it took 3 hours to chisel our way into the facility we were using. But normally we have about 125 volunteers. We had 30 volunteers instead because of the storm. And so trying to manage the 30 volunteers to do the same amount of work as 120 it was pretty challenging, which is why those like Cameron who were on site were running around all day long, trying to get everything done. But so with Nicolette's role, she was at a distance, and so I could give her information, the volunteer contacts and the kind of itineraries of different things. And so if we needed supplies to go to a specific location, she could take care of coordinating, contacting the volunteer and saying, hey, this needs to go there. And then they would go take this and put it there. Or if we needed extra volunteers in a specific location, she would contact those volunteers and direct them to where they needed to go. And so it was really helpful in a way that we haven't explored before. And so, definitely in the future, we're going to be really building that into the plan. How can we use volunteers who want to help out but can't physically be on site? That is absolutely a new way, a new direction for us to explore how to kind of be impactful in your space that you're in. So I appreciate the willingness to jump in and try something new and to help me grow into that. I think that's pretty neat. Um, let's see. I want to stop for just a moment and show one of the videos from one of your teammates. Clancy Montez is our team member who is from nutrition. And she made a video for us. It's a 5-minute video, I think, and it's talking about about a program called Market to Hope that the team explored. Excuse me. And so I just want to share that. And so give me just a minute.
Hi, my name is Clancy
Sounds
Monk,
good.
and I'm a senior nutrition major. My think tank project focused on Market to Hope, helping other people eat. I selected this project because I'm passionate about helping people access nutritious foods, and I believe that food is a powerful tool for health and longevity. Being part of a project that directly supports that mission was especially meaningful to me. Market to Hope is a client choice food pantry located in Beaumont and Winnie, Texas. Unlike traditional food pantries where clients receive a pre-packed box of food, client choice models allow individuals to shop for their own groceries, selecting items that best fit their dietary needs, cultural preferences, and personal taste. This approach respects client dignity and encourages healthier food choices. Their mission is to provide nutritious, accessible food to individuals and families facing food insecurity. They offer both in-store and curbside services. Walk-in clients use the client choice model and shop for themselves, while curbside pickup clients receive a pre-packed box of about 50 pounds of food. Market to Hope aims to preserve the dignity and health of every individual and family they serve. My project goal was to explore how pantries like Market to Hope prioritize nutritious food access, which is a critical part of addressing food insecurity. This is important because food insecurity is a major social determinant of health. By understanding how healthier choices are promoted in pantry settings, we can better connect nutrition interventions to long-term public health outcomes. I was especially interested in how they arrange their food space to promote healthy choices. I met this goal by touring the Market to Hope facility, where I saw how the layout was intentionally designed to encourage healthy choices. Fresh fruits and vegetables were the first thing I saw when I walked in the facility, and nutrient-dense foods were placed at eye level. Unlike traditional grocery stores, which often prioritize product placement based on profitability rather than nutritional quality, Market to Hope intentionally places healthy items at eye level to promote better food choices. I also learned that physically disabled clients received guided shopping assistance to ensure accessibility for all. And from speaking with the program coordinator, I learned about their strategies firsthand, from food arrangement to nutrition education workshops. And I saw how they balance health and food access of every client they serve. What stood out to me most was their focus on dignity. As a nutrition student, seeing how their environment and approach honor each person's humanity reminded me of why I chose this field, to ensure health and nourishment are accessible for all. This experience strengthened my commitment to promote food equity and my future career as a dietitian. The pantry is designed to look and feel like a typical grocery store, and everyone is treated with kindness and respect. I was inspired by the generosity of others, like Chick-fil-A donating their leftover chicken, and a local rancher donating beef to support families in need. Also, Market to Hope even carries pet food, so our furriest family members can eat as well. I'd like to thank Mrs. Miranda Creech, the program coordinator, and Deacon Ricky Pampolina, the director of Market to Hope, for allowing us to tour the facility and witness the impact of such a compassionate and nutrition-forward program. I would also like to send a special thank you to Ms. Carolyn, a helpful and kind volunteer who took the time to speak with our group about feeding the homeless and the food insecure. Her passion and dedication added a deeply human perspective to our visit and reminded us that it's often the quiet heroes who make the greatest impact.
I love the video that Clancy created for us, not only because it sounds like story time. Her voice is so calming, but in addition, what the project that she's talking about is really indicative of the idea behind the think tank. The whole idea is that we'll learn about homelessness, we'll conduct a needs assessment, and then we'll develop a response to that through service learning projects or other investigative kind of activities. And so for Clancy, for the Market to Hope project, she created or organized a site visit, and we went and toured the facility and were able to really walk around the aisles and talk to some of the volunteers and see what it actually entails, which was pretty amazing. So Nicolette and Cameron, y'all both have coordinated projects for the think tank. Let's start with Cameron, and I'm going to ask if you could talk about um, either a project you coordinated or the one that you're going to be working on over the summer.
So I have coordinated quite a few. Just a couple would be the Pocket Pal. So the Pocket Pal, which it's not my project, it's just something I assisted Dr. White on. I've been working on it actually for like 2 years. The Pocket Pal, if you guys aren't familiar with it, is a small. Every time I talk about it, I always wish I had one, and I normally do. They just are never around me. Anyways, it's a pocket-sized resource guide, and it has a list, and it's all in categories, so everything's categorized of like foods, needs, clothing, mental health, veterans, financial aid, different things like that. But it's for the homeless. It's a resource guide for the homeless, and it's on waterproof paper, and it's in a little pocket or pocket size, not in a pocket. And it's very, very cool. I enjoyed working on it because it was able to expand my knowledge of what's local to me. And I've lived here all my life and I had no idea what some of these people or organizations did. So that was a cool one. One that is coming up is I had been to an event, a volunteer event called the Stand Down, which is a veterans event where me and James had met an organization where they had bought land and they were building homes for previously homeless veterans. And it's called the Veterans Village. We have coordinated with them and we're going to a site visit this upcoming weekend. Really excited about that one. I actually got a text from him today and he sent me an agenda. So that's something that I did. And for future projects, I'm excited. This is actually one that Dr. White and I have been talking about for a while. Going back to the Pocket Pal, one of the issues I ran into was so with the Pocket Pal, it has a list of those resources, and it has an address and a phone number. So part of my job is I went and called every single person on that guide. And what would happen to me a lot of the times was they were very hard to get a hold of. They were not answering the phone, or I would ask a question and I would be redirected a lot of the times, or, they weren't able to give me the information that I needed. So I think we're going to do a project where I'm going to kind of collect data where, what's the response time? How many times did I get redirected? Because that's good information to know if these organizations are trying to help people in vulnerable situations. And I am not a person in need and it wasn't an emergency. However, if it was, how do they expect to attend to those needs if they don't answer the phone or if they're not able to answer simple questions? So that is something that I will be working on in the future. I feel like there might be one more thing that I wanted to talk about. I don't think so. But Pocket Pal was something that I care deeply about. I've worked on it. And we also have another team member who actually just translated it all into a Spanish version, which was really, really awesome. But I enjoyed it. It created a new passion for me. for sure, because I like all of those organizations. We've actually got to work pretty close with a lot of the people that we have listed, and it's introduced me to, for career wise, what I'm kind of looking for and at a local standpoint. I could, maybe even look forward to applying to those places as well. But yeah, those are some of my projects.
How many organizations are on the Pocket Pal?
I actually don't know. Is that terrible? A lot?
I believe there's 83.
83. I was gonna say like 67. I don't know why that was the number that came to my head. And I don't have one. Every time I talk about one, I'm like, oh my gosh, why don't I have one in my hand? But I have, it's kind of become my baby just because I have seen it and worked on it and talked to those people on the phone multiple times. Because I did a first round of calls for a completely different reason. And then I recently, whenever we were trying to re-edit it, I called all those people again and went through the same experience. Oh, and I forgot to mention on the back of it, there's a map. A map of Beaumont, and what we did, we tried to, there was on the previous version there was a map, but what we did is we added more color, we simplified it a lot more, and we tried to, so in Beaumont specifically, all of those organizations that meet those immediate needs, like day shelters and you know certain like ministries, they're all relatively in the same area. So we wanted to kind of highlight that area and like put the bus stop and the transportation routes all around it. So, if they're on the street, they can be able to get to it. So yeah.
I think that the Pocket Pal is a great example of kind of the idea of the think tank, because the Pocket Pal was originally a project of another organization that they've been doing for like 3 or 4-ish years. And then when I got a hold of it, I put it on waterproof paper based on feedback from individuals living on the street. And then Jillian Cogbill, who was an intern last year, interned with me to examine homelessness. And so her major project was to redesign the Pocket Pal. And so she held focus groups with individuals living on the street to determine what kind of information was helpful, how should it be organized. She's the one who created that first map. And so it was a really neat evolution. And then from there, then Cameron and the think tank team have revised it even more, and it just continues to evolve to meet the needs. And that's really what this program's about: identify the needs and then figure out a way to respond to it. So thank you, Cameron. Nicolette, you want to talk about what you're going to be doing this summer?
Yes. Do you want me to talk about the women's conference as well from what we've done, or focus
Sure.
on? Okay. So back in March, we had a joint organization effort for a women's conference. It was Empowering Women in Marginalized Spaces. And we had several different speakers and panelists that talked about different topics. And we orchestrated this conference with the think tank, the Cardinal Council on Family Relations, and LUNDA, which is Lamar University's Dietetics and Nutrition Group. The speakers we had were Haley Tyson. She came from actually the Lamar University Career Center. So if y'all are still looking to build and trying to figure things out for yourselves, I would go over there, talk to Haley. She is amazing. Then we had Victoria Visor, who is an alumni from Lamar University. She had graduated with in the health and nutrition, and she spoke to us about mental health and the connections that nutrition has with it. And then we also had Laura Langley, that was from the Samaritan Counseling Center, who was a licensed therapist supervisor, who spoke to us about mental health. And then we also had the panelist of a great group of women, small group of women that is very impactful with the Southeast Texas area. And it's Carol Fernandez, Mary Young, and Patricia Planis. Carol is from Catholic Charity Organization. Mary was Southeast Texas Community Ambassador and works, is it VITA or VITA, Dr. White, just to be
Revision.
accurate?
She works
Okay.
for Revision.
Revision, okay. And then Patricia works with Boys Haven of America. And it was such an impactful panelist discussion on what they do for the community, what community resources are available, and who to connect to access those. We had wonderful refreshments breaks from Lunda that provided a lot of nutritional snacks for us to nibble on as we mingled and got to know each other and network. And it was really wonderful. And I do hope that that is a conference that will continue next year, year after year. And I could see it growing, and it was just phenomenal. Cameron was our moderator. She did a fantastic job and really kind of owned the show. So thanks for doing that, Cameron. And this summer, the summer is going to be spent on a culture humility project, and as well as the Housing Advocates Academy project that I talked about in my internship. And this is a continuation of the needs assessment that we're doing with the grassroots organization in the Southeast Texas area, and how to help them learn about grant writing and access that funding through different variations of grants that are available, and look at culture humility and a community resource aspect for marginalized spaces. And that's the tier top view of it. So it's going to be exciting to see what that turns into and what that looks like, and how that can be impactful for Southeast Texas area, but also for me, everything I'm learning about Beaumont, I hope to implement here in Houston. I live in a very small town, and I think it's a great opportunity for me to take these projects and to implement it in my own area. So it's like a small rippling effect. It's not just going to stay with Southeast Texas. I've got to bring it on over here to Houston somehow. And I mean, even if it's just sharing information with these organizations here, I see this big picture. So I'm excited what the summer is going to bring.
I have one last question before I open it up for others to ask questions. Nicolette, for the women's conference, can you remember how it all got started? What was the needs assessment that led to the creation of the conference? Do you remember?
Well, I remember initially talking about it at the start of the Cardinal Council of Family Relations from last year. It just kind of birthed in with the council, and then I saw just that it was too big of an event to not involve other student organizations. And being involved in think tank, I saw what they were doing, teaching resiliency, not just teaching, but working with people in a resilient factor. And it just correlated. And then I thought about the health aspect and looped in Lunda, and Lunda was great to jump on board because it's all encompassing. So I hope if that is my perception of the start of it, but it really was like a long process to me.
It was a long process. Specifically, it started because we did a focus group with CCFR members who were first generation students, and we identified that there were feelings of isolation and marginalization. And I think that's what propelled you. So when you heard about NCFR's initiative with women in marginalized spaces, you thought, hey, wait a minute, this fits. And I think that really kind of propelled everything forward. So does anyone have any questions for these two?
Thank you for the reminder of NCFR. That it really is rooted in that. And you're right, because that was their focus, and we wanted to support that focus.
I can't find my raised hand button, but I'm just going to chime in. I just want to say you guys have done a phenomenal job from, based off of the information that I'm hearing. And I'm just so happy I was able to hear what you guys did. And it sounds like it was a success. So I hope that, like Cameron said, I hope that they continue this in the future. And then also shout out to Nicolette. I want to tell you one thing. You're amazing. You're always trying to uplift other people when it's about you at that moment. And I appreciate that.
That is very sweet. Thank you. I'm gonna take that, keep it right here in this heart of mine.
Then take it everywhere you go.
Anyone else have comments or questions? Okay, so let's start with Cameron. What, throughout your experiences with the think tank, have there been any um, shocking or difficult things that you've learned along the way?
Um, I think there's been a couple. So for me, I'm a major go-getter. Like I love to take on as many tasks. Me and Nicolette are very similar in that we will take on as many tasks as we can at any point in time. I did have to learn how to manage that because sometimes that is just not realistic for me. As much as I want to, I learned how to say like turn a task down, which I typically don't like to. Um, I want to make sure everything gets done. So that was something that I had to like learn for myself. Like you don't take on more than you need to, because if not, then you're going to not be successful in other areas when we need to focus on one thing. If that needs to be successful, let's focus on the one thing. Um, I do believe I got better at a work and school balance because outside of think tank, I do have, my real life job and also with being a student, I had to learn how to kind of manage all of those things and making sure I was hitting the mark and not letting one go essentially and not being successful in those areas. I learned how to work better with a team because I am typically an independent kind of girl. I love independent work. Not that I'm not a team player, you know. I love I love my team members. We've gotten to be so close and we've bonded. And it's been really great. But I had to definitely learn how to, let other people take the lead because a lot of the times I do like to take the lead. And also, Dr. White tells me I need to take the lead sometimes. So I was just like, already like, okay, I'm taking the lead on this.
I shove with love.
Yeah. And so that was, I think one of the things that did shock me is the chemistry between all of us. Like we really did somehow manage to, I don't know if that was Dr. White or whatever, but the chemistry that we all had as a team, we got along so well. Like whatever, like it was just there was no negative energy ever. The only negative energy came from this probably end of the semester where we're like, oh my god, like are we gonna be able to make it from the stress? But all work so well together, and it's crazy because we're all like we come from different colleges, we have different interests, and we're all different ages. Like I'm 25. I believe James is 30. Amy's like 20, and so we all are kind of in different parts of our life. And I was also lucky. My childhood best friend was on the team, so like we were kind of like Tweedledee and Tweedledum of the group. But I think that was one of the things that really shocked me is how well I didn't expect for us to be like get close the way that we did and really really work together. So
Nicolette?
Well, I'm going to correct you, Karen, and say Toodle smart and Toodle smarter. Okay. um, and I was just engulfed in Cameron's experience, Dr. White. Could you please repeat your question?
Sure. I was asking if there was anything that surprised you or was hard about being part of the think tank.
Yes, and all of it for me. But it was all good. That is not going to think a negative. Like I was very surprised, one, at how cohesive a diverse group of people can be. Different, like Cameron was saying, different academics, different backgrounds, different life culture, everything. And it was amazing to see a bit of pieces of each of us put a project together. Um, the most challenging for me is being virtual. I would love to have been there at every single event. They do a lot of community advocate work, and to not be able to experience that is very challenging. I mean, I get to experience through their stories and their pictures, and it's fun. And so any chance I get to be a part of the team in a physical aspect, like it feels like I've been there the whole time. Um, the projects are always working with humans and individuals, so there's heart in it, and it tugs on your heartstrings. That's also challenging because you want to stay polished, as Dr. White is teaching us to do. um, and that's challenging to do, especially with first exposure to me. I'm an emotional person. I'm a weeper. I'm a crier. I love people, and I want to sympathize and empathize with them because I'm a fixer. I want to bring peace into their lives and give them a solution, at least a step to a solution. And sometimes you feel helpless, and that's a challenge. But we're not helpless. There is something that you can do to offer help if it's not just solve the problem. Help is not solving, help is help. And I had to learn, like, it's not a big giant boulder. There's these tiny little rocks, which kind of came from an experience that we had when we went to the housing summit, um, at the summit, Samaritan Inn in Dallas, when we were painting rocks and motivational messages. I'm like, each of these little rocks and these little messages are building a foundation for somebody to walk on and to carry forward on. And so, that's the challenge, is not feeling like you're ever impactful enough, but you are, and having to learn that. And that's part of culture humility. And again, like spoke earlier in different sessions, of using our culture humility to help people rather than like we don't have the experiences. It's what we have had and what we can use to help others.
Yeah. I think my final question will be, um, how has your experience with the Resiliency Think Tank changed your educational experience at Lamar?
I'll go. So for me, I have been in and out of college for a minute. Um, so moving to I was previously a psychology major for background, and it was not serving me. I love psychology; it's still my minor, but I was not progressing as a student at all, and I was not taking care of myself and my success as a student in order to meet the finish line. So when I moved to family studies, which is a hybrid kind of department or major, and much smaller. You're dealing with Dr. White and Dr. Wallet for most of your time, and they're so receptive to everything. They're watching you, they're checking in on you, they're making sure that you're successful. And so whenever I started working for Dr. White and I was able to be like close to my professors, that like changed me as a student because it made it easier for me. I felt like to become successful because there was a person on the side that was pushing me and believing me to do other things. So whenever I started with Think Tank, and then I also have all these other friends with me that we all have a common goal, and we all want success for each other. It I feel way more polished as a speaker. I feel like I used to not like research like at all, and now it's like the only thing I ever want to do. Um, and I discovered a complete new passion. I've always wanted to enter the counseling world. I'm sure, as most of us have, or family specialists, whatever you're looking for. And I love to help people, and having an opportunity to be hands on and do all these projects, it made me feel like, okay, like I'm, as a student, I'm not just turning in my homework and going through the motions. Like I'm doing something, and it's making me more passionate to meet that finish line and look beyond the finish line, which I had never done before. So I feel more established as an academic and a future employee. I feel like Dr. White and Mr. Dr. White go by like world changer and trophy wife, I mean trophy husband, and so I feel like a world changer too now, kind of. I feel like I'm able to step into this world and make big changes. I don't feel like that's not a possibility. I have been introduced to spaces where I know where to start. So that's kind of how it's changed me and impacted me.
Well, I feel like I've been a barrier buster. Okay. Being an online student, non-traditional student, I was concerned about what type of involvement that would be. My previous involvement in online education was through community college, and it was like, you're in, you're out, goodbye, thank you, carry on. I have felt like I am a student at Lamar University, and I said in the comments earlier, they are very versatile and still giving that student experience. Y'all, I am 43 years old. Okay. My time in the world for education was in the 20s, but I am here being part of student organizations, being a part of internship with the university, being a part of this conference. This is not normal. And Dr. White, you got to have some kudos. A lot of this is created by your effort. And to see your professorship and your love for students and your love for learning and teaching us to be successful, as messy as it can be for us sometimes, you're just there. And I really appreciate that support. That has been incredibly impactful for me. I feel seen as a person, seen as a student and a professional. Like you don't hold our hands. You're like, well, you can figure it out. And you encourage us to push ourselves out of our comfort zone constantly. I don't have a comfort zone anymore, just so you know. And so that's how it's impacted me. It's impacted me to not say no to opportunities I would have before. It's shown me that the mental health industry is not just patients that can come in and pay for, therapy, like a luxury. It is a necessity and a need and a community resource that should be much more accessible than it is. And so learning about that and how I can do work in the future with those that are in marginalized spaces and experiencing homelessness, of how that shouldn't be a luxury service that should be so hard to find, because they are really who need it the most. Having to learn to deal with their experiences in that moment that may be a little bit longer lasting than, some of it's trauma, it's grief, they carry things that we don't see, just as we all do, but they should have just as much access as somebody that could just be able to pay for it or has the support of somebody to pay for it. So that's how it's impacted me, is that mental health is for everybody.
Well, I am so impressed by both of y'all. I have absolutely loved working with y'all over the past however many months I've been with each of you. And I can't wait to watch what's coming in the next few months and in your journeys after you graduate and move on. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be part of this. I'm thankful for your both of you being so willing to step out of your comfort zone and to try new things and to not give up. And I'm so proud of you. I'm going to go cry now and then take a nap. um, so I think that will conclude the session. I really appreciate y'all being here. I appreciate all of the other students who attended to hear from y'all and hear from all of our other presenters throughout the day. So thank you all so much. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend and I will see y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.